Greg, Joe Biden and President-elect Donald Trump are set to meet at the White House on Wednesday morning to discuss the transition of power. On Saturday, the White House announced the president invited the former and future president for an 11 a.m. meeting in the Oval Office. Joe Biden has already spoken to Trump by phone to congratulate him on his victory. Biden has made it clear that there will be a smooth transition, noting it is what the American people deserve. Donald Trump's victory made him only the second U.S. president after Grover Cleveland to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. And after a request from special counsel Jack Smith on Friday, Judge Tanya Chutkan paused all the upcoming deadlines in Donald Trump's election interference case. The filing read in part, the government respectfully requests that the court vacate the remaining deadlines in the pre-trial schedule to afford the government time to assess this unprecedented circumstance and determine the appropriate course going forward consistent with the Department of Justice policy. Smith's team indicated the delay would give prosecutors time to determine the appropriate path forward. The action wasn't a complete surprise after Donald Trump's win, as the Department of Justice has a long-standing policy against prosecuting sitting presidents. In early October, Smith had submitted a filing an election case in an attempt to argue in this case Donald Trump is not immune from prosecution, arguing that presidential immunity does not apply. Sources at the FBI claim January 6 cases that are still in the pipeline are dead, going nowhere, and will likely be closed. According to the Washington Times, the cases involve individuals still under FBI investigation but never arrested for their alleged involvement in the Capitol riot. However, according to the Gateway Pundit, NBC News is reporting that the DOJ plans to arrest the most egregious of the rioters who committed felony assaults on law enforcement before Trump is sworn into office in January of next year. In the meantime, more than 1,000 January 6 rioters, many nonviolent first-time offenders, remain in the D.C. jail. President-elect Trump announced on the campaign trail that he would pardon the Capitol rioters on a case-by-case basis. So what will day one of the second Trump administration look like? Well, for certain, a number of border-related executive orders will be reinstated as Joe Biden rescinded them on his own day one. Others will likely have to do with Trump's efforts to get the U.S. energy industry flourishing again with his drill, baby, drill credo. And then in a more celebratory mode, the president-elect last week said he will convene a White House task force called Salute to America 250. It will organize a year-long celebration to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence, starting on Memorial Day of 2025. Also sure to move forward in some fashion will be the deportation of some of the 15 million or so illegal immigrants who have entered the United States under Joe Biden's watch. Convicted felons, gang members, and those who have committed crimes since entering the United States will most certainly be the first to go. Tim.
Mike, the race to replace retiring Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell is heating up as Rick Scott of Florida, John Cornyn of Texas, and John Thune of South Dakota compete for that top spot. Scott, who has the endorsement of fellow Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky and Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, is known for his strong relationship with the incoming president. As for Cornyn, he says he worked well with Trump in the past. According to Fox News, has not commented on seeking Trump's support now. Current Minority Whip John Thune is also a strong contender, with important support among senators wanting to balance establishment Republican ideas with new ones. When asked if President-elect Trump has a preference among the three, Thune had this to say.
Well, I don't know that he does. I'm staying in regular contact with him and with his team. And, obviously, if he wants to, he could exert a considerable amount of influence on that. But honestly, I think my preference would be, and I think it's probably in his best interest, to stay out of that.
As you just heard Thune say, he says it's probably best if Donald Trump does not get involved in the secret ballot election. As election results continue to come in, one question remains: will the GOP retain control of the House? Currently, Republicans have won 214 seats and the Democrats have 203, with 8 more races leaning Republican. With a total number of 435 seats, 18 races have yet to be called, meaning either party could still end up in control of that chamber. The party that wins 218 seats or more will control the House, so that means Republicans only need another 4 wins, and right now that looks likely. Republicans have had control of the House for this 2-year session, with Louisiana's Mike Johnson currently presiding as Speaker of the House. As for the Senate, the only uncalled race is in Arizona, where former newswoman Republican Kari Lake is trailing Democrat Representative Ruben Gallego. Greg?
Donald Trump continues to shape his policies, including his plan to stop the mutilation of children. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children.
Trump also plans to ask Congress to stop taxpayer dollars from being spent to pay for these programs, according to Just the News. This on the heels of the House Oversight Committee opening an investigation on the National Institutes of Health after a federally funded researcher admitted she said on undesirable results of a 2-year study on puberty blockers. Candidates supported by the 1776 Project Political Action Committee, an organization that opposes political indoctrination and upholds parental rights, won multiple school board races in Tuesday's elections. According to the Christian Post, in Maryland, 3 school boards shifted from progressive majorities to conservative majorities as 1776 endorsed candidates won elections in 7 of 9 Maryland counties. Stefano Forte, 1776 Project PAC executive director, said this, quote, "Even outspending us by $450,000, the teachers union couldn't beat us in deep blue Maryland. Their message is too extreme." According to Capital News Service, Forte added raising test scores and graduation rates were far more important than far-left culture wars. Joining us now is a man who served the United States Air Force in many roles, including commanding the famed 83rd Fighter Weapons Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Ford. Welcome to Victory News, sir.
Hey, good to see you this morning, sir.
Good to see you, and happy Veterans Day to you. Thank you for serving. So, in addition to the good news we just heard in Maryland, school boards from coast to coast, including states like New Jersey, Nebraska, Nevada, California, they saw pro-family candidates voted onto school boards. A lot of times people only focus on the presidential. These school boards have ignored parents and they're pleased to focus on education, not on the DEI agenda. Were you pleased? Are you pleased to hear about the outcome of school board elections across the country?
Absolutely. This is a federal, a state, and a local win. And we can't just do it at the federal. It's a grassroots capability. You know, Isaiah said, "My people will live in peaceful dwelling places, in secure homes, and undisturbed places of rest." And that includes how we govern and what goes on with our kiddos. And we're going to get to righteousness rapidly.
Amen. I agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about the team that Trump's building. You understand, as an officer, you had to have a good team around you. Late last night, an exclusive report, the New York Post ran this headline: Trump confirms New Yorker Elise Stefanik will be his enforcer at the UN. Strong, tough, and smart. Trump and Stefanik confirmed the decision in the article. So let me ask you, Trump has been accused of not being comfortable around strong women. Is this pick for the United Nations, an America First, pro-Israel powerhouse like Stefanik, is that a good pick?
Absolutely. You put a warrior in a warrior position. You know, I've been going to Proverbs 28. Says in verse 12, when the righteous rejoice, there's great glory. There are other righteous men and women in Europe, in the United Nations, and they are waiting for someone to set a course and a standard, and they will run behind it. So she's exactly the right person. She's going to get stuff done, and she deserves our prayers.
Yeah, she does. Let me talk to you about this. Former communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris. His name's Jamal Simmons. He made a surprising plea to President Joe Biden in these final days of his presidency. Here it is. I'll get your response.
There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa.
He would absolve
Wow.
from being able to from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat.
Simmons had said Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things the public want to see. So is that a wise thing for Biden to step down now and make her president?
You know, I try not to think like an idiot as often as possible, so I don't give this much thought other than the natural wild rhetoric we've seen before. And more importantly, I just think about staying in wisdom and understanding and praying for our nation and what we have going ahead of us. So everything we see from now until when President Trump takes office deserves prayer. And after that, cast it aside.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good, I like that. I agree with you, not thinking like an idiot. I just read what they put on the screen.